We hit the strip on a Friday night in Vegas. We're looking to mess around a bit and have some fun, so we jump into a 1-3 game at the Aria, one of the most gorgeous properties. We buy our chips, we find our seat, and we immediately start splashing away. We win with a couple small pots early on with a raise and a c-bet. Everyone's laughing, drinking, and we're having a great time. We're in the same sort of mood, so the table is lively and loose. We're going to be playing some fun hands in position, looking to win some big pots and push the envelope on what's considered good poker, which shouldn't be too hard to do if you watch this channel. The table is full of amateurs, the money's flying around, so let's try to get some while the getting's still good. The first real hand we pick up is King Jack of Hearts in the blind. We call a raise to 16 and we go two ways to a flop of 8, deuce, 3 with 2 spades and 1 heart. Not much help to us, although we do have 2 overs and a backdoor flush draw. I check it over to my opponent, who quickly checks. We head to the turn, and it's a jack. Great card for us because it's very disguised, and it shouldn't hit my range, so when my opponent leads, I'm happy to call a bet and see a river, putting my opponent on a hand like ace-king, king-queen, or even queen-jack outkicked. The river comes out a deuce of hearts, and I think about checking it over to maybe try to induce a bluff, but I don't want to miss the value and risk going check-check. And maybe he might perceive my lead as weak and think I missed the flush draw. So I lead into my opponent and I make the standard play, which pays off as he calls, and then he shows down the queen jack. We have him just out kicked, so we take down a medium-sized pot. Standard plays get standard results, and that's exactly what happened right here. This is hindsight, but had I would have checked, he probably would have bet his queen jack, I would have raised it on him, he would have most likely had to call, and I would have won a much bigger pot. That is being results orientated, but it is still true. We're on to the next hand, where the run good continues, and we pick up the king 9 of clubs in the small blind. We throw our small blind out there, and as you can see, the dealer returns one of my chips because I forgot I was playing 1-3. We make like nothing happened, return the chip to the stack, and then we get back into the action. As it starts folding around, I notice the button to the right of me, double checking his cards, and he starts to cut out chips. Usually that's a pretty good indicator that they're going to make a bet, so I'm watching his every move. He was cutting out a bunch of chips, like he was going to make a much bigger raise, but then he ended up electing to just raise it up to 12. So seeing that, I feel almost obligated to call, so that's exactly what I do. I make the call, and it goes 3 ways to a low flop. And initially it doesn't look like a great flop for our hand, but when you factor in our range advantage and the fact that we're the small blind, we might be able to steal this pot somewhere down the road depending on what the run out is. So I check with intentions of calling a bet and taking a turn. I might even check raise my hand now and rep a monster if I get bet into. Fortunately, it doesn't come down to that as it checks around and we take the turn, which is a 5 that pairs the board. Now, if we're going to stick to our plan and represent the hand that connects with that board, we have to lead out. We put the button on 2 Broadway cards or pairs ranging from 7s through 10s. If he has 2 overs, this bet should work, and we see no reason to be concerned with the middle position floater, so we're targeting the button with this over pot size bet. And while I'm analyzing this hand, I don't like this bet as much as I liked it in real time because it makes me extremely polarized. So when I put out a bet like this, I either have it all or I have nothing. In this case, it's the latter. And I noticed when I was analyzing this hand, I didn't count out my chips, I just threw a bunch of them in the middle. That could be a tell. I'm not saying he picked up on it, but it could be there. And when he doesn't immediately fold, I realize I got myself in trouble. The dealer counts out the chips, he brings in the pot, and he puts out a river, which is a queen. Which again, at first glance, looks bad for my hand, but what queen is he calling my pot size bet with? And if he had a hand like 9s, 10s, or jacks, you're not exactly thrilled to see that queen either. So if we're sticking to the plan, we have to fire. And we have to fire big in order to keep the story consistent and to keep my opponent's curiosity away. So we reach back, we grab a handful of red chips, and we gently slide them into the pot. We're hoping for an insta-muck. When that doesn't happen, we just remain cool and hope not to sweat in the hot seat. My opponent starts to count out a stack full of chips. Well, I'm for sure in trouble now as I get my hand caught in the cookie jar. He doesn't call. Instead, he announces
185.
And that's enough to get it done. I made a terrible play. There's no posturing, no Hollywood. I just have to let go and be happy that I didn't have to show down my hand for the rest of the table to see. We're on to the next hand, but not before my buddy gets some needling in.
You are big time. Big time. Big time poker.
The next hand we pick up is pocket kings in the big blind. Everyone saw what happened last hand, so this is a great opportunity to play to my image. Plus, I might be looked at as steaming or a maniac from the last hand, so we're going in incognito mode with a monster. So I raise it up, and we go 3 ways to a flop, which comes out 7, 8, ace. It seems like every time I pick up pocket kings, it's just a matter of which ace is going to show up on the flop. So I proceed with caution. The turn comes in 9 of spades, and at this point, I'm really not too confident about my hand. The good news is, I only have $15 invested in this pot, so I'm definitely not married to my hand. But when my opponent only bets 15, I'm getting 4-1 on a call. And if he bets river, I'll have more information on 5th Street, so I do make the call, and I keep him honest. I'm looking to get to showdown and win against any one-pair hand that doesn't contain an ace. But when the river's a 10, I can't think of a single hand I'm beating anymore, besides pure air, which is very unlikely. So I show down my kings as another player rakes in my chips. We could get upset about that hand, but all that really happened was we got our kings cracked, which happens about once in every 5 times. And I only lost 10 big blinds, so I say we got off the hook lucky. There's an old saying, there is no luck in life, just odds. And speaking about odds, let's break down these odds. The odds of being dealt pocket kings is 220 to 1. The odds of being dealt kings 2 times consecutively is 1 in every 48,000. So when we look down at black kings in the small blind, we know that there's a 100% chance that we're about to get cracked again. But that's a gambler's fallacy. The cards have no memories, they hold no grudges, they reset, and so do my statistics. So we size up at a position with kings and get 1 caller. This hand plays itself, so I'm just gonna run it.
No way. I bet $1 million.
How much?
Billy.
You'd be in the hole for 2 mils.
Find out.
Should have got it in pre-flop. You have an ace?
Huh?
You have an ace?
I don't.
Oh. Could it be?
Yeah, you would have won $2 million.
I figured she bet so big last time with jacks that this time she... Oh, is that jacks again?
That is Jack.
Oh, I guess that was a
I was
perfect
let me slow it down this time.
That is a great record.
I can't remember the last time I had kings back to back.
They gonna know I got Jack about to do the same
Jeez.
But I thought you had an ace. I was gonna say, Jesus.
At this point, something unexpected happens as a wild Karen appears. She is uneasy at the thought of everyone having a good time, and she found my table presence to be quite repulsive, as I had slippers on, which was not the proper footwear. She requests to move to seat 1, leaving a seat open to the right of me, which is getting filled. Within the midst of all this, and to my confusion, I somehow find myself going 3 ways to a flop, holding the old 8 deuce offsuit. But when the flop comes out, we actually connect with it. So we check like we would with most hands, and we call a small bet. We take it 2 ways to a turn card, and the turn card is my bingo card, the deuce of diamonds. We're out of position, so we check for deception, giving our opponent the opportunity to take the lead on this hand, which she does, and we call. Now we know we have the best hand, so when the river card comes out, the ace of clubs, it's a gin card for me and for my opponent to connect in a way that's beaten by 2 pair. No reason to slow play. I grab a handful of chips, I throw them in the middle, and relatively quickly my opponent matches those chips, and we go to showdown with our 2 pair, and it's good. That was the same Karen who purposefully put herself in seat number 1 after not being able to stand sitting next to me. Well, if you didn't like me then, you probably don't like me now. And I can tell you for sure, you're definitely not going to like me after this next hand. We pick up the Jack Queen off, and after that last hand, we're feeling froggy. So we leap in for 15 on the button. Alarm bells go off when seat number 1 raises it up to 40. This is in no way a steam bet, and I know this player is a nit. So I'm calling this bet knowing that I'm very far behind. But I'm calling this bet because I'm on an aces cracking mission. You guys remember that 1 in 5 chance? Well, that could happen to us. So we do make the call, fully intending to outplay our opponent. We don't think she's good enough to let go of a big hand, and we're in position. So we take a flop. And when the board comes out, Jack high, I know that I'm not ahead, but I know my chances just increased. My opponent makes the mistake of only betting half pot. I know we've heard of implied odds, but have you heard about revenge odds? Revenge odds says that there's going to be a queen on the turn every time. So when the dealer takes in the pot and finds the queen in the deck, my opponent open jams 2x pot. The only question is, how fast can I call?
Call it.
Call.
Call. Queens full of jacks.
We take this one down, and the villain decides to call it a night. And shortly after, we book a modest win and have a great time doing it. Time to head to the cash cage and book my session.